Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is David Hill over at BimmerVidsNC. Wanted to bring you a quick video. I got a nice email from a customer that is interested in purchasing a 2019 X5, and he had some questions specifically on the Active Driving Assistant Pro and also the M suspension. So I wanted to cover those questions in a video form for all of you other customers that might be interested and maybe have the same kind of questions on the X5. So I'm going to go ahead and read off the email real quick, and then I'm going to cover each point and explain and go through the questions that he has. Hi David, I watched your recent YouTube video on the Arctic Grey X5 and enjoyed it very much. Perhaps you could provide me with some additional advice as I'm working towards a new build. Congratulations. I want to better understand the M differential specifically. What is the driving experience with and without it? Test drove an M Sport over the weekend, and I'm assuming the car had it, but I happen to like the X line better. So I figured ordering the car that way instead of the M Sport, getting the integral active steering and the air suspension, am I sacrificing some driving dynamic by not getting the M differential? So the M Sport differential is a standard feature on all M Sport model X5s, and it is very similar to the dynamic damper control that's standard on all X5. So it's not a huge difference from a normal X line to an M Sport with that M Sport differential, because they both have adjustable dampers in the suspension setup, so that when you go around turns, the car can tighten one side of the suspension and reduce body roll and give you better handling, keep it more flat in the corners, that sort of thing. So the M Sport suspension is just more sporty. And that's a really vague term, but I guess it's something in the tuning that's going to adjust things a little bit more aggressively to be tuned more towards on-road performance versus an X-Line, which is more for off-road and versatility and comfort. Let's see here. Sorry about that. My exposure keeps on going off. So BMW actually put a diagram out that explains the X5 suspensions. Let's see if you guys can see that there. So as you can see, the darkest line is the M Sport, and that in the comfy / sport axis there, you can see it's just above the standard suspension in sportiness and handling, but both pretty comfortable. They don't really go into detail as far as what technically is different in those cars, but they're both fairly good. Now, your idea about going in with the integral active suspension and the comfort handling package, I think that's really cool. I have delivered one X5 that has had that. The integral active suspension is active steering is nice because it's four-wheel steering, and so because the X5 is a little bit of a bigger car, it's easier to maneuver around at lower speeds. You have the rear wheels turning perpendicular to the front wheels, and so it really wraps around into those tight parking spaces, and at low speeds you can get it in and out of curvy driveways, that sort of thing. So if you're in that kind of a position or you park in a parking deck, that's a really recommended option. And then the comfort with that, in the comfort handling, you have the 2-axle air suspension, and that's also comfort and convenience. When you get above 86 miles an hour, or if you're driving in sport, the car automatically lowers itself. And then when you are going off-road and you're going at low speeds, the car will raise up. So it can interact and change depending on the driving that you're doing. And it makes it easier to load and unload items because it'll lower the tailgate. The car, and as a whole, there's a button in the tailgate that you can push, and the whole car lowers down to make it easy to load and unload things. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's get into the second question real quick. Also, can you shed a little light on the Driving Assistant Pro package? He kind of goes into specifically cruise control, active cruise control. Why would it want it to slow down? So let me real quick cover that too, because the car I delivered earlier this year had the same feature. So the Active Driving Assistant Pro is not just active cruise control, even though active cruise control is included in that package. Active cruise control is going to use radar and cameras to sense your distance between the car in front of you. And so let's say you're going 80 and then somebody cuts you off. Instead of going into them or having to put your foot on the brake and reset the cruise control, the car judges the distance and keeps you at a normal distance. Now, you may not want that. You don't have to have that active with the Driving Assistant Pro, but it is optional with the cruise control. And there's also, and I know what you're probably saying, if you're like me, you drive a little bit more aggressively, and so you might not want to leave 4 car lengths, when you're in rush hour traffic and everybody just kind of scoots in front of you. You can deactivate that feature. Another thing that the after Driving Assistant Pro does, I'm just going to kind of read off everything involved in it, is it adjusts your speed to the speed in the on the road. So the car can tell what the current speed limit is, and so it's going to limit your top speed to be in line with the speed limit on the road. And I think you can set it to like 5 to 10 miles over, but I think 5 miles over is probably what it's going to be set for. So if it's a really long trip and it's going to take you several hours to do it anyway, you might want to use that feature, the active cruise control, in that scenario where you don't have to be on and off the gas and the brake and everything like that. But normal day-to-day driving, you're probably not going to use it. The active lane keep is also a feature, so the car will keep you in your lane, and it's standard with the warning where if you start drifting from your lane with a turn signal on, or without a turn signal on, it'll vibrate the wheel, but this is actually going to actively keep you and steer you back in. And that's nice if you're driving at night and you're tired. You don't want to have a scenario where you're distracted or you're tired and you're drifting away into another lane or into the side of the road. So that's helpful. Also, it has a lane change assist. This is a little gimmicky, but if you hold your turn signal and there's an opening, the car automatically changes the lane. So there's cameras and there's sensors all around the car, and it will judge if there's a car to the side of you, behind you, in front of you, and everywhere in between. It's a really smart technology. It's kind of next level to where you can autonomously drive the car, which is kind of that extended traffic jam assistant, to where you're at lower speeds, the car can automatically move you forward, and instead of you riding the brake and the gas all the time in like a commute where you're going at lower speed, like if you live in Atlanta or LA, then the car takes over for you and kind of drives it autonomously. But that's might be another topic, because there's a lot more involved with that in particular, like kind of like a co-pilot, I would say. Most people aren't going to use that function, but if you do, it comes with the Driving Assistant Pro. So that's another added benefit to it. There's also front, side, and rear collision avoidance features. So if somebody, let's say, doesn't see you and they go into your lane, the car will sense that and take you out of that lane and put you in a safe position instead of allowing somebody to hit you from the side. There's also an emergency feature. So I've got some clients that have medical issues, or you might have an illness where you might be incapacitated while you're driving, and that's really scary. But the car has a built-in feature to where it allows you to have anybody in the car hold the emergency brake, and the car turns into an emergency stop mode. So it activates BMW Assist, and so police and fire and paramedics are notified unless you cancel. And what the car does is it puts its flashers on, it finds the best way to get off the road, and it will take you off the road without you having to input anything. It'll stop you, and it'll put its flashers on. So if you can imagine driving and you're in a really scary situation where the driver has a heart attack or a stroke or is incapacitated in some way, the car will be able to stop itself without injuring anybody else in the vehicle. So it's kind of a unique feature, and it's really it's cool technology. Hopefully nobody ever has to use that, but it does work, and we have tested it. So hopefully that helped you. Hope answered some of your questions. I think I covered everything in here. I know you're working with your local dealer, but you're more than welcome to get a second opinion on any pricing. We are one of the larger dealers in the Southeast and have shipped cars all over the country. So if you're interested in getting a competitive quote for me, I'd be more than happy to give you that. If anybody else has any more questions about the X5 or any package or feature in particular, you can shoot me an email just like Jerry did, david.hill@hendrickauto.com. Thank you very much. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll talk to you next time.